Welcome, curious minds. I'm about to take you on a journey into one of humanity's greatest mysteries. What happens when we die? At the time of death, the mind experiences its own light. If recognized, this light leads directly to liberation. These words from Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche hint at something profound. What if the moment of death is not the end, but the most important moment of your existence? Death, the one appointment we all keep trying to reschedule. Yet ancient wisdom suggests it might actually be the most enlightening meeting on our calendar. I know talking about death might seem like a downer, but what if I told you that understanding death could actually help you live better? Stay with me. This journey gets fascinating. Why are we so afraid of death? In most modern societies, death is treated like a taboo, something to be hidden away, sanitized, and spoken of in hushed tones. We've created a culture where death is seen as a catastrophe rather than a natural transition. I remember my first encounter with death as a child. The confusion, the questions, the strange silence from adults who seemed to have no answers. Maybe you felt that too. We spend more time planning our vacations than contemplating our final destination. Imagine showing up to the afterlife and realizing you should have packed differently. The spiritual teacher Sadhguru offers a different perspective in his book, Death: An Inside Story. He suggests that death is not a catastrophe, but a natural process, one that can be approached with awareness and even grace. But what if death is more than just an ending? What if it's actually a profound spiritual opportunity? This is where ancient wisdom traditions offer us something remarkable. In the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, there exists a text of immense significance, the Tibetan Book of the Dead. This ancient manual describes in extraordinary detail what happens during and after death. At the very moment of death, according to this tradition, something miraculous occurs. The dying person encounters what is called the clear light of death. This is not a metaphorical light, but a direct experience of pure, radiant awareness, the fundamental nature of consciousness itself. Imagine for a moment that throughout your life, your true nature, your consciousness, has been like the sky, and your thoughts, emotions, and sensory experiences have been like clouds passing through that sky. At death, as the body and ordinary mind dissolve, the clouds part, revealing the boundless, luminous sky of pure awareness. This is the clear light. Here's where it gets really interesting. The Tibetan tradition teaches that if a person can recognize this light as their own true nature, if they can merge with it without fear or distraction, they achieve immediate liberation. In other words, enlightenment at the moment of death. The traditions teach that recognizing the clear light requires familiarity. It's like recognizing an old friend in a crowd. You need to have met them before. This is why meditation practices focus on glimpsing this same awareness during life, so when it appears in full radiance at death, you don't mistake it for something external or frightening. Think about it. What if the most profound spiritual experience awaits all of us, regardless of our beliefs? What if we've been preparing for this moment our entire lives without realizing it? But what happens if we don't recognize the light? According to the Tibetan Book of the Dead, if the dying person fails to recognize and merge with the clear light, they enter what is called the Bardo, an intermediate state between death and rebirth. In this state, the consciousness experiences increasingly complex visions and encounters. These aren't random hallucinations, but manifestations of the person's own mind, their unresolved emotions, karmic patterns, and deep-seated tendencies. Now let's explore death from another ancient tradition, the yogic perspective. In his book, Death: An Inside Story, Sadhguru describes death as a systematic process of disengagement. Yogis have been researching death for thousands of years without any funding or fancy laboratories. Their only equipment? A cushion, a focused mind, and remarkable patience. Talk about dedication to the scientific method. According to yogic science, life is sustained by 5 types of prana, or life energies. During death, these pranas withdraw in a specific sequence. First, the earth element dissolves. The body loses its solidity and strength. Then water. Moisture leaves the body. Then fire. The body grows cold. Then air. Breathing ceases. And finally, the space element. The subtle connection between consciousness and the physical form dissolves. Yogis describe death as the ultimate meditation retreat, except you don't need to pack your yoga mat, and the checkout time is flexible. But there's profound wisdom here. Yogis believe that how we live determines how we die. A person who has lived with awareness, who has cultivated presence and consciousness in daily life, is more likely to remain aware during the death process. This is why many spiritual traditions emphasize meditation and mindfulness. These aren't just practices for better living. They're rehearsals for the ultimate moment of transition. The fascinating thing is that these yogic practices for preparing for death are the same ones that can transform your life right now. We'll explore those connections in future episodes. But what if we could experience aspects of this clear light while still alive? Both the Tibetan and yogic traditions suggest this is possible through deep meditation. Some practitioners report glimpsing the same luminous awareness that appears at death. It's as if they're getting a preview of coming attractions. Now let's venture further into the mystery, beyond the moment of death itself. According to the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the journey doesn't end when the heart stops beating. In fact, it's just beginning. The tradition describes a 49-day journey through the Bardo state. During this time, the consciousness of the deceased person undergoes a series of experiences. In the first 21 days, they encounter peaceful deities, manifestations of enlightened qualities like compassion, wisdom, and equanimity. In the next 28 days, they face wrathful deities, more intense manifestations that can appear terrifying. But here's the key insight. Both the peaceful and wrathful manifestations are projections of the person's own mind. They're not external beings judging or punishing, but reflections of the deceased's own consciousness. These 49 days mirror what many people report in near-death experiences. Could these ancient texts be describing something measurable by modern science? We'll explore that connection in our episode on consciousness research. Interestingly, neuroscientists studying brain activity at death have documented surges of electrical activity in the moments after clinical death. Some researchers suggest this could correlate with the heightened awareness described in these ancient texts. The line between ancient wisdom and cutting-edge science grows thinner every day. This is why Tibetan Buddhists perform specific rituals for 49 days after a person's death. These aren't just cultural traditions. They're designed to guide the consciousness of the deceased through the Bardo state. Family members recite specific passages from the Tibetan Book of the Dead, reminding the deceased to recognize the nature of the visions they're experiencing. Imagine if our funeral practices weren't just about saying goodbye, but actually helping the deceased navigate their journey. What if we could assist our loved ones even after they've left their physical bodies? So what does all this mean for us, here and now? How can understanding death help us live better lives? First, these traditions suggest that death isn't something that happens only at the end of life. In a sense, we're dying every moment. Cells in our body are constantly dying and being replaced. Thoughts and emotions arise and pass away. Each breath is a small cycle of birth and death. By becoming aware of these small deaths, we can practice for the big one. Each time we let go of a thought, an emotion, or an attachment, we're rehearsing the ultimate letting go. Here's a simple practice you can try today. For just 5 minutes, sit quietly and observe your breath. Notice how each inhalation is like a small birth, and each exhalation is like a small death. Don't try to control the breath. Just witness this natural rhythm of arising and passing away. This simple awareness practice begins to familiarize you with the nature of impermanence. Second, understanding death can transform how we prioritize our time. The Stoic philosophers of ancient Rome practiced memento mori, remembering that you will die, not to be morbid, but to focus on what truly matters. Ask yourself, if you knew you had 1 year left to live, what would you do differently? What conversations would you have? What would you stop postponing? Finally, these traditions offer something profound: hope. Not the hope of escaping death, but the hope that death itself might be a doorway to something greater, that the end of this chapter might be the beginning of another. We've only scratched the surface of this ancient wisdom. There's so much more to explore about the nature of consciousness, the possibility of rebirth, and how these insights can transform our daily lives. But what if the soul doesn't recognize the light? What determines where we go next? And most intriguingly, what if we could experience aspects of this clear light while still alive? The ancient texts suggest this is possible, and in our next episode, we'll explore how meditation practices were designed to give us a glimpse of what awaits us all. We'll also look at the fascinating connections between these ancient teachings and modern scientific research on consciousness. Until then, I invite you to sit with these ideas. Perhaps take a few moments each day to contemplate your own mortality, not with fear, but with curiosity and openness. As the Tibetan teacher Sogyal Rinpoche said, "Death is a mirror in which the entire meaning of life is reflected." Thank you for joining me on this journey into the forbidden light. If you found value in these insights, please share this video with someone who might benefit. And let me know in the comments, what questions do you have about death and consciousness? Your curiosity will help shape our future episodes. Until next time, may you live with awareness and approach the great mystery with an open heart.